going on? Apparently, we as the United States are slowly getting surrounded by Russian ships. And why isn't the news talking about this? We're talking about Russian warships, nuclear warheads, and hypersonic missiles, and it's not even on the news. And Russian ships off the coast of Hawaii, not even 25 miles. And this has been going on for weeks. And it's just starting to emerge in the news now, I think, because there's so many of us out there reporting on it. They probably feel like they need to start getting on it. And of course, numerous reports of them being up off the coast of Alaska. Many people reporting that they continually get chased off. But if you're anything like me, what you're noticing is a trend of them just closing in. So the big question is this concerning to you? And what type of threat does this pose? Let's go over the details of each situation. If you guys are brand new here to our awesome community, welcome. If you like emergency preparedness, how-tos, prepping tips, and news that might affect you, be sure to hit that notification bell so you guys can stay up to date. Let's jump into this one. So like I said, I'm seeing all kinds of reports. There's only a handful of YouTuber preppers out there that are reporting on this. We apparently have Russian nuclear missile ships off the coast. We've got many reports up near Alaska. We've got reports of them being off the Hawaiian coast, not even 25 miles. And the new one creating all the buzz is the one off the East Coast, supposedly a Russian hypersonic nuclear tipped missile ship with nuclear warheads and hypersonic missiles. And this one is expected to only be around 100 miles off the coast. So is it just me? Or does it look like we're slowly getting surrounded? And more so, what's the probability of an attack? And if they did happen to get crazy and pull a trigger, what are the effects? Let's go over it. Okay, so let's start with Alaska, talk about that for a minute. Then we'll go to Hawaii, and then we're gonna go to the East Coast, which is the most concerning one of them all. So most of us have seen the reports of the ships off of the Alaskan coast, which is, I think, within about 100 miles. And this happens to be Russian ships and Chinese ships. And the reports of those really started ramping up at the end of September into October, which was just a few months ago. Here in this article of Newsweek, you can see it's titled, Russian and Chinese Navy ships spotted less than 100 miles off the coast. Now, I'd have to say that spotting these ships up off of the Alaskan coast is probably more common, not as much as being 25 miles off of the Hawaiian coast or 100 miles off of the East Coast. Real quick, this article said a group of Russians and Chinese warships were spotted in the Bering Sea several dozen miles off of the Alaskan island. And this started September 19th. The U.S. Coast Guard said on Monday, confirming Moscow and Beijing's second joint patrol in 12 months. Now, this wasn't just a couple ships. I believe there was 7 or more ships. The crew of Legend-class cutter USCGC Pinball monitoring a surface action group comprising at least 7 ships, 4 of the Russian Navy and 3 of the Chinese People's Liberation Army. And this was according to the Coast Guard's 17th District. A statement said by the Chinese Navy's Type 055 destroyer Na Chang, which the U.S. classifies as a guided missile cruiser, sailed approximately 75 nautical miles north of Kiska Island. The Nanchang was joined by 2 other Chinese vessels and 4 Russian naval vessels. And they weren't separated, they were all in single file order, as they operated in the U.S. Exclusive Economic Zone. Here's a map of the U.S. CG District 17 area of operations, so it gives you an idea of what area and what waters they were traveling in. So what we know is that they're breaking the rules. They're entering in zones that they're not supposed to be in. Is it by accident? Absolutely not. And more concerning, across the board, the Russians and the Chinese seem to be working pretty tight together, especially when they're traveling in single file lines together. In this photo right here, listed in the Newsweek article, you can see that the U.S. Coast Guard is spotting the foreign naval vessel resembling the Russian Navy. In this picture right here, a destroyer from the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Now you can definitely see that these are not ships that are like scientific explorers that got off course. These are warships. These are fighting ships. So I read through a lot of comments. Some people think that it's war strategy. Other people say, don't worry about it. It's all under control. Let me know what you guys think, but let's move on to the Hawaiian coast. Now, this one happens to be so concerning due to the fact that it's been there for, I think, 3 weeks now, and it's just starting to emerge into the news just a few days ago, which is very bizarre. Now, they're saying that this isn't a warship, but an intelligence ship. Crazy thing is that it's only about 25 miles off the coast of Hawaii. In this article of the New York Post, it headlines, U.S. Coast Guard tracking Russian intelligence gathering ship off of the Hawaiian coast. In this picture, you can see the U.S. Coast Guard has a picture of it announced Wednesday only. So here's a photo captured by the Coast Guard. The U.S. Coast Guard announced Wednesday, which Wednesday, we're in like the 3rd week of January, and this was just last Wednesday, and this thing has been there for, I think, up to 3 weeks now. The Coast Guard has been tracking the vessel off the coast of Hawaii, believed to be a Russian intelligence ship. So I don't know exactly how things work there, but I imagine being 25 miles off the coast of our country should come across a little bit alarming. So now it sounds like they don't even know what they're doing, what the objective is, but that might just be a lack of information that we're being told. In this article, it reads, in recent weeks, the U.S. Coast Guard has continued to monitor a Russian vessel believed to be intelligence gathering ship off the coast of the Hawaiian Islands, the Coast Guard said in a press release. So what do they say about it being so close? While the area off the coast of Hawaii is known as the U.S. Economic Exclusive Zone, the EEZ, it is open for international ships to pass through. Some foreign military ships have been known to linger off the coast. Foreign flagged military vessels have often been observed operating and loitering within the Coast Guard District 14's area of response. Now, I don't know the logistics about these zones, but hearing about the stories up in Alaska and those ships being chased off by the Navy, makes me wonder why the justification for a Russian ship, an intelligence ship, to be loitering only 25 miles off the Hawaiian coastline. Let me know what you guys think, because maybe I don't know how it exactly works or what the real story is. In this zoom photo right here, you can definitely see the military personnel. The ship was seen in the U.S. Economic Exclusive Zone of the U.S. Coast Guard. So see, the part that I don't understand is that they're hanging out in our zone. And when I say in our zone, really deep into our zone, you could probably see this ship right off the island. The Coast Guard officially said that the Russian ship is being monitored and multiple agencies are discussing strategies to keep maritime peace. So I don't know how normal this is, but the fact that they're up off the coast of Alaska now, off the west coast, and now on the east coast, all at the same time, it seems kind of puzzling to me. And maybe I'm overthinking it, but at the same time, we seem to have a problem with Russia. We seem to have a problem with China. And it seems like NATO is slowly moving closer and closer to conflict. With all of those type of current events happening and their ships closing in on the United States, well, that's where I'm coming from. So let's go to this ship that's now being spotted and reported off of the east coast of the United States. Now, let me add, this report I can't find anywhere on the news. In fact, the only place I can find it is on the Sun. But you know what? Let me give you guys a bonus one that's not on the news yet. Another one they probably don't want you knowing about. This World News article from Pravda.ru titled, Russian submarine with 160 nukes on board surfaces off the U.S. coast. Bet you haven't heard about that yet. And this was reported last week. Russian nuclear submarine of the Bore project, which carries 16 Bulava ballistic missiles on board, unexpectedly appeared off the coast of the United States, having caused serious concerns in Washington. Well, yeah, can you imagine? Russian submarine, 160 nukes off the coast of the U.S., just came out of nowhere. Each of the missiles in the service with the submarine is capable of carrying up to 10 nuclear warheads. This created an extremely serious danger for the United States, given the U.S. military have not been able to track the Russian nuclear submarine. Bonus headline, right? According to the NetEase publication, Russian nuclear submarine of the Bore project, according to other sources, it was an Akula project submarine, approached the U.S. coast unnoticed. It was possible to establish the whereabouts of the nuclear submarine with up to 160 nuclear warheads on board after the sub started going back to the base. A submarine of the class is capable of destroying most of the territory of the United States of America in minutes. And the report says that they never even knew it was there until it surfaced. Russian nuclear submarines will be able to consistently patrol the waters near the U.S. coast in the event that Russia decides to build a naval base in Cuba or Venezuela, as representatives for the Russian Foreign Ministry earlier said. So now that, to me, sounds very concerning. And now to the ship off the East Coast. This thing is known to be carrying hypersonic nuclear tipped missiles. That's right, nuclear warheads with hypersonic missiles. It is now being reported by a couple prepping channels to have traveled down here along the East Coast and is within around 100 miles of the coastline. And it's really interesting. If you guys look at the flight radar, you can see that they're like avoiding this area. So I'm assuming that it's probably currently somewhere in this line right here. So a lot of people are asking, what type of threat could this pose? Well, how long does it take a missile to get up to where it needs to be? 40 seconds. And looking at this map right here, do you guys realize, hypothetically, if this thing was detonated straight above Omaha, the EMP coverage is huge. It would cover almost the entire United States. Like I said, it only takes 40 seconds to get to altitude. And what happens if we have an EMP like that? It takes out our communication. And that's a war game strategy. Take out the communications as fast as possible, and it can give you a leg up. So again, it's been reported that this thing came down the coastline right along there and is probably still around in this type of area. And like I said with the other places, is this nautically okay? Is it permitted? Is it legal? Apparently it's okay for them to travel wherever the heck they want, but does it raise a concern? Well, I think so when it's starting to look like it's all around the United States. It just seems to me a little bit ironic that it looks like we're getting surrounded by Russia. And one thing I've told you guys before, we may or may not be crazy, our leadership, enough to jump into a world war like that. But you need to think about these other countries. They've got crazy leaders. They've got bullish leaders. So what's the probability of one of those countries having enough and pulling the trigger? Because all it takes is one person and everything changes. Because it's out there, Lavrov, Russia now engaged in a real war with the West over Ukraine. The troubling escalatory rhetoric from the Kremlin's top diplomat comes as Russia appears concerned about the game-changing NATO shipments of Leopard tanks to Ukraine. War games, and they are happening. At what point is enough enough? And will some crazy leader make a crazy move that changes everything? These are just things that are actually happening out there that you might want to consider. Please like and comment. Let me know what you guys know. Also, I have an email address if you've got a really good report for me or a link. Share this video out so this information gets out to the emergency preparedness communities. And as I know more, I'll keep you guys posted. Keep prepping, keep learning, keep doing. We'll see you on the next one.